The predator that hunted galaxies backed down when the humans smiled at it. The Vexthera had consumed 17 galaxies. Commander Zeftok of the Galactic Defense Coalition watched the tactical display with growing dread. Each red dot represented a dead star system, billions of lives snuffed out by the entity that defied every known law of physics and biology. The creature, if it could even be called that, existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that hurt to contemplate. "Sir," his tactical officer whispered, mandibles clicking nervously. "It's changing course again, heading directly for Sol system." Zeftok's 4 eyes narrowed. Sol system, where the humans lived. The humans were peculiar. When they'd first joined the Coalition 50 standard years ago, most species had dismissed them as another unremarkable bipedal race from a backwater world. They weren't the strongest. That honor went to the silicon-based Korthak. They weren't the smartest. The ethereal minds of Proxima held that distinction. They weren't even the most technologically advanced, but they were unsettling. "Open." "A channel to Earth Defense Command," Zeftok ordered. "We need to warn them." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Admiral Sarah Chen, the human representative. Her species' strange custom of showing their dental formations, smiling they called it, never failed to unnerve other Coalition members. But today her expression was serious. "Admiral Chen," Zeftok began, "the Vexthara has changed course. It's heading for your system. We estimate arrival in 47 hours. I'm sorry. We've thrown everything we have at it. Nothing works." Admiral Chen leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled. "How big is this thing exactly?" It's consumed the mass of approximately 4 million suns. It exists in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Our weapons pass through it like it's not there, but its effects on reality are all too real." "Interesting." Admiral Chen's lips curved upward, slightly that disturbing human expression again. "And it's intelligent?" "Hyper-intelligent. It seems to take pleasure in the hunt. It toys with civilizations before consuming them. The psychological warfare is almost worse than the physical destruction." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "I see. Well, Commander Zeftok, I appreciate the warning. We'll handle it from here." "Handle it?" Zeftok's voice cracked. "Admiral, this entity has destroyed civilizations that were millions of years old. Races that had mastered technologies we can barely comprehend. What could you possibly—" "Trust us," Admiral Chen said, and this time her smile was wider, showing more of those white, pointed teeth. The transmission ended. Zeftok stared at the blank screen, his blood running cold. 47 hours later, the Coalition fleet hung at the edge of Sol system, instruments trained on the impossible battle ahead. The Vexthara had arrived exactly on schedule, a writhing mass of dark energy and twisted space-time that hurt to look at directly. But something was wrong. The entity had stopped. For the first time in its recorded existence, the Galaxy Eater had simply stopped moving. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, voice shaking, "I'm detecting a single human vessel approaching the Vexthara." "One ship?" Zeftok's voice was barely a whisper. Against that, on the main screen they watched a small human cruiser, barely the size of a Coalition frigate, drift slowly toward the cosmic horror. No weapons powered, no shields raised. It looked like a child's toy approaching a hurricane. The Vexthara's psychic screech echoed across dimensions, a sound that had driven entire species to madness. The Coalition crew covered their auditory organs in pain, but the human ship continued its approach. Then something impossible happened. A single human figure, wearing nothing but a basic EVA suit, stepped out of an airlock and began floating toward the Vexthara. No tether, no propulsion. Just drifting through space toward an entity that had devoured galaxies. The figure was small, insignificant against the cosmic scale of the predator. But as it drew closer, something changed in the Vexthara's behavior. Its writhing slowed. Its psychic emanations quieted. Through their most powerful telescopes, The coalition watched as the human figure came to rest on what might have been the entity's surface, or perhaps in its seventh-dimensional fold. They couldn't quite tell. What they could see impossibly was the human removing their helmet, in the vacuum of space. And then, broadcast on all frequencies, came a human voice. Calm, conversational, almost friendly. "Hello there. I'm Lieutenant Marcus Webb, Earth Defense Corps. Mind if we talk?" The Vexithara's response was a psychic scream that should have liquefied the human's brain. Instead, Lieutenant Webb laughed, actually laughed, and the sound somehow carried across the void. "Oh, you're a feisty one, aren't you? Listen, I know you're used to everyone running scared, but that's not really our thing. See, we humans, we've got this weird quirk. We're persistence predators. Do you know what that means?" The Galaxy Eater writhed, but it had stopped advancing on Earth. "It means," Lieutenant Webb continued, still floating impossibly in hard vacuum, "that we don't give up. Ever. You might be bigger than us, older, more powerful, but here's the thing. We're going to keep coming. Always. Every time you try to feed, there will be. Every time you think you've won, we'll find another way." The human paused, and though the coalition sensors couldn't capture his exact expression, at this distance somehow they all knew he was smiling. "But here's what really should concern you. We're not angry. We're not afraid. We're having fun." The Vexithara's massive form began to shift, backing away from the tiny human figure. "That's right," Lieutenant Webb said, his voice carrying warmth that somehow made every coalition member's skin crawl. "We enjoy this. The hunt, the challenge, and we've got nothing but time." For the first time in its existence, the predator that had hunted galaxies fled. As the Vexthera tore a hole in reality and disappeared into dimensions unknown, Lieutenant Webb calmly put his helmet back on and activated his suit's thrusters to return to his ship. The last transmission from the human vessel was Admiral Chen's voice, that terrifying smile audible even through the comm system. "Zeftok, this is Earth Defense Command. Threat neutralized. Would you like to join us for coffee? We should discuss expanding humanity's role in coalition defense operations." Zeftok looked at his crew, seeing his own terror reflected in their faces. The humans weren't the strongest species in the galaxy. They weren't the smartest, but they were something far more dangerous. They were apex predators who had learned to smile,